So this is just on this slide, a publication indicating that, for example, copper and many other minerals is the same. So minerals walk or move through the enterocyte from the gut lumen to the blood differently. So different sources move into the enterocyte at a different pace, but also through the enterocyte differently. So if we don't take that into consideration, the level will then be different on a blood level or tissue level if we don't formulate according to the source that we use. So we need to take that into consideration. And if you take that back to the cow level, in this publication, you can see using inorganics, and this was in the sulfate form in comparison to organic minerals, which was in a protein complex model used. So you can see using inorganic versus organic energy-corrected milk, a vast difference. And remember, we're talking parts per million here, and this still has a huge effect on animals. So talking about minerals, we need to know, and you need to know as a vet, exactly what is your level, what format the company is using that to ensure that your farm, the reproduction and immunity is optimized by using the correct source. This is just milk somatics cell counts, also different when you use different sources. So it's up to that level as well, a huge difference. And one reason why we're using high performance dairy herds, organic minerals as well, is our first service conception rates are better, and also our pregnancy rates at 150 days in milk is also much higher. And that's why we use mineral sources like this to really optimize. So ask the question when you work in that specific herd, ask the nutritionist to explain to you as a vet, what do they use and what level, so that you agree with them what to use for a specific purpose or a strategy. The new kid on the block, although it's a few years old, is hydroxy minerals. So we replace a lot of our copper, zinc, and manganese sulfates with hydroxy minerals to get a higher bioavailability, and therefore also get a better performance on those cows. We'll also save by using these minerals instead of using sulfur-related minerals. We also see that we can get a better effect by from the vitamins, or even reduce some of the vitamin E's, which is quite expensive due to using this hydroxy minerals, because it's not as aggressive as sulfates onto some of the vitamins. So you need to be aware of all these things to know exactly what's happening there. Few case studies is I was asked by a pasture-based herd to come and help. They saw a lot of heifers as well as dairy cows with this red skin color, which was abnormal for them at that stage, or not. They were not used to having so many animals with this red skin color or hair color. We analyzed some of the water, and it was scary if you look at the iron level, which was about 4,100 times the upper limit that those cows can handle. So very high levels of iron that I saw on that specific water source in one of the big dams that they use, as well as high levels of manganese. So getting back to what we changed is we know iron is an antagonist to a few of the other minerals, and we changed some of them, and within 7 weeks we got the color back to normal. The reproduction, it was almost half the amount of semen straws that they used to get a a pregnancy. So before we changed everything, the 4-month average was about 3.8 straws per AI for conception. And then after 6 months, after we changed everything and included some of the minerals in that premix, which was organic, to make sure that we don't have an antagonistic effect from the iron. You can see, although it's not good, 2.1 is really not good, but it improved quite a bit. We also see immediately that the condition of those animals improved, and we saw that through the scales that the body weight improved significantly the next 6 months after we changed that. So very negative that those high levels of iron, the negative effect of that. Another example is high potassium levels in the pasture source. We saw some animals where the milk just came out of that udder. It was streaming out due to hypocalcemia, and I'm sure you handled that earlier today, so I'm not going to spend time there, but you can see it's related to a low level of ionized calcium in the blood, and at the end of the day we don't get that muscle function to close that teeth and that sphincter to get a positive effect from there. We know the other negatives about hypocalcemia. And due to that high potassium, we saw a lot of other things on that farm, which was even retained placentas that we saw. So we had to change a few things regarding that. So most of the dairies where I work give me a vet visit, after a vet visit, a urine pH on the cows, which is within 10 days of calving. And we try to follow those animals to ensure that there's no other minerals negatively affecting our DCAD values in those animals. And pH is a nice tool just to use to give us an indication of what will happen in those animals. So precision farming, and sorry for the spell, the mistake there. It's as Chris said, we did this after hours. So the precision farming and nutrition is a team focus to improve profitability, and on all the farms that I work, we are a team. So between the veterinarian, myself, the genetic advisor, and other consultants, we get back to figures, and the financial advisors follow the effect on what we implement to make sure that what we do will create profits for those farmers. So by that, I will leave it for any questions that anyone may ask. Chris, I'm not sure if you and Martin wants to join in at the discussion of how do you see veterinarians and everything working, or everyone working together on those farms as teams. How do you see it, and how do you see the young and upcoming veterinarians? How can you help them to really get these teams to work together? Maybe some thoughts from your side. I know Martin does a lot regarding that, but I think it's so important for everyone to work together.
Yeah, Kenneth, like the talk at AFMA and what you're doing, it's amusing that both of us are moving to the middle, which makes that working together a lot easier. So I spend a lot of time with the students just dealing with basics and concepts, and so it ties in very well.
I see there is a question that came through now. Someone just asked, is there any geographical distribution for deficiencies? A cause of a shortage of a specific element in soil or grass?
Yeah, there's definitely geographical influences. If you go to the northwest area, where we see that there is low levels of phosphorus and high levels of manganese, you need to be aware of that. We also know that if you source lucerne for dairies from specific areas, that we need to make sure that our, due to some of the minerals in that, and especially the cobalt, that you need to ensure that there's other minerals that you need to supply as well. And especially if we source lucerne from Hartswater, Vollards area, we increase the level of copper in our diets due to that antagonistic effects. So it's so important that that you always be careful in which area you work in. If you go to the Tsitsikamma, where I saw that high levels of iron in the water, you need to be aware of that and analyze not only the water source for a specific period, but go into seasonal effects, because there is vast differences between seasons in a specific area as well. So analyze, evaluate, and make changes. That's a key thing for dairy cows. I hope I answered the specific question. Okay, Chris, my question was related to you, and Martin answered his side, but I think one of the things that that we need to focus on, and that is to get the veterinarian, the nutritionist, and all the other consultants on a specific farm to work as a team. The one thing that I experienced 25 years or 30 years, and even in feedlots currently, is people are not working together. And my question to you guys is, what advice can you give people to really work in teams? Because then you create wealth.
Kenneth, I see you've got a team. I said it yesterday also, you know, that's actually the acronym for together everybody achieves more. You know,
Yeah.
we need to work together on these. We only as clever as what we are. You know, veterinarians are clever on the veterinary side, nutritionists are clever on the nutrition side. But if you can bring it together, you know, cleverness plus cleverness plus cleverness will make a major success. If you can't work together on these things, and this is not a place where you need to build little pedestals, you know, we don't need pedestals in this industry. As I said yesterday, about 0.6% of the total production of milk in the world. We're self-sufficient when it comes to milk production, but we need to keep it like that. You know, we don't need a lot of, I see in some of the upper, you know, the countries north of us, you know, like Kenya and some of the other countries, there's a lot of overseas so-called specialists running around there. You know, some of them haven't got a clue about African diseases when you get to Rift Valley fever and lumpy skin and tick-borne diseases and so on. That's a place where we can play a role, especially, you know, and I think also if we start playing a role there, we can start also looking at that. We can become the bread and the milk and the food basket of the rest of Africa. There's a lot of possibilities. And then as Sureta now said in a chat that came up there, she's agreeing 100%. You know, we can't operate in silos. I think in the old days, there, when I qualified, there was a huge, almost like a Rift Valley, a huge difference between agricultural scientists and veterinary scientists. You know, and that thing hopefully is something of the past. We need to work together, and this is why we focusing on this thing, and then actually bringing in people like yourself, Kenneth. We're bringing in some other specialists, private veterinarians, and people from the bank and economists like yesterday. We as veterinarians, you know, we're not the full package, but we're almost there. We lack when it comes to nutrition, you know, except if you like at the what's the word? You know, I was able to study nutrition a little bit further when I did my master's degree. But I think especially, you know, and also what I said earlier, you need to be on top of nutrition. 65% of your cost, but 99% of your success. If those things are not in place, and again, the veterinary nutritionist, and I think Prof. Dirk Lourens will tell us again tomorrow, you know, we are the people that can actually identify the problem. And then, you know, like some of those problems that you referred to in Bethel when we worked together there, Kenneth, I identified some of them, and then we worked together. You know, I didn't then yeah, you were on the other side of the fence when we finally got to, when we finally had to decide on you know, what is the monetary value of the loss there. But it's, you know, I'm not, after that, I'm still talking to you, and it's important that we need to be, even, you know, in a specific area, the nutritionist and the state vet and the animal health technician should almost be house friends with a guy in a rural practice. You know, that's the important, how important it is. You know, we need to have a beer together, but we also need to work together.
No, definitely. I think in our industry, in the dairy industry, most people working on the farm, from a professional's point of view, most of us are friends, and we talk a lot. So it's nice to get a phone call like I had 2 weeks ago when a vet asked me that he's battling with heifers on a specific farm, for the farmer to adjust his system so that they don't move on heat heifers to the milking parlour, which was about 700 meters away from that specific AI facility, is to try and convince him to build one for the heifers close to the heifers. And it's nice when you get calls like that and say, okay, if you also say that when you visit the farm again, help me to get that focus, and that the farmer can realize that he needs to do that. And when I get to the farms, you always talk the right strategies and convincing farmers, not talking away from each other. So the focus always together as professionals. We need to differ from each other sometimes, but we do it not in front of our dairy customers. We sort that out behind the scene, because we will differ from each other, and we need to sort that out in a professional way, because then we can create the same strategies on the farm.
Yeah, it's important, as you said, you know, to do it behind the scenes. You know, if you, and I think we're going to do on Friday, the personality traits, you know, required as a dairy vet. But you also need to understand the personality of your client. You know, some it's like, you know, I've just after I qualified, I attended the course where they said it must be like a car salesman. You know, when that guy walks in, you must immediately identify. He knows everything about the car, the engine, the kilowatts, everything on that car. Him, you're not going to convince when it comes to the technical things. And it is so, you know, like when we started there in Bethel, Kenneth, I think we had a lot of dairy farmers there, and not in a negative, but, you know, their father, his grandfather was a dairy farmer, his father was a dairy farmer, now he's a dairy farmer. Now we're sitting with very not clever, you know, that's not the right word, very knowledgeable people on the farms, you know, people with at least a bachelor's degree or a master's degree in something, you know, especially around agricultural science. And then there's also some veterinarians that's dairy farmers. I mean, if you look at Dr. Kobus Hendricks, you know, he's a veterinarian, he's a very, very knowledgeable person. He knows everything about genomics or genetics, actually. He knows everything about nutrition, you know, so that's a person that you need to become friends with and then understand that. But okay, getting back to the psychology, you know, so the other person you're going to convince when you convince him by showing him partial budgets, you know, okay, you're losing this with mastitis, I can do this for you, and your losses will be reduced, or you will never reduce it to zero, but at least you can get rid of 50% of your losses. The same in nutrition. And then that person, you know, you will convince him like doing that. And then the other person will be, you know, he's it's difficult to explain, but he's maybe, you know, he's the chairman of all the committees in town, and he's a very sometimes too clever, you know. So how do you approach him? I always said, what are you going to do to become involved in a dairy herd, and how are you going to remain involved there? I think that's the important thing. And then it's service, Kenneth. If you don't service a person, if he calls you at 9 o'clock on a Sunday evening and it's a dystopia, maybe you go there immediately. You know, don't wait till Monday morning and tell him, you know, ask the question, since when this cow was calving. No, she started on Friday, and then you tell her, I will come tomorrow. you will never go to that herd again. Maybe you will go that one evening, but that guy will never ask you to be there again. So if you, and the same with you, Kenneth, I think when you had a problem or problems in the past, you will be there almost immediately on that farm. Because they see you as you know, what you've got on that list, a consultant, veterinarian, nutritionist, genetic advisor. Sometimes you're a combination of everything there, but you need to know where's your limits there. I think it's very, very, very important when it gets to becoming a successful dairy vet or a successful dairy nutritionist. You need to know your limits.
Yeah, and even when we're talking about people on farm level, a person the other day asked me, why am I so close to the operators sitting in the tractor or the self-driving mixer? Those guys are close to me in the sense of they are my eyes every day there. So if I'm close to the operator in the tractor that's mixing the feed, and I let him know, and I train them a lot, and they know exactly why do we want to have specific particle length. It's amazing how quickly they adapt their system, and they don't take shortcuts because they know we will see it in the bulk tank. But what I actually learned from Kobus Hendricks, if you handle them and you train them a lot, they actually are clever enough, and I mean that in a nice way. They are really, the 80% of my success is in their hands. So if we can even get the people on farm level to believe in yourself, because in the past I was always saw the herd manager walk through the cows, talk to the owner, and then left. These days I spend more time with the workers because that they 8 out of 10 times give me more information of why did something happen on that farm, because they know exactly what and most of them are very honest about that. And if they see something, most of them phone me to say there's a new batch of bruised grains delivered, or something was delivered. Do I need to use this or not? So one needs to work through the levels on that farm as well to really create a team spirit.
Yeah. So in the end, as you know, everybody, together everybody achieves more, and I think it's important. And then Milena will also share that with us. When training is a value-added service in your practice, you can really go out and go and add value. You don't need to go every day and do TB tests or CA tests or do a farm walk. I think it's important, to get the people on board. This is why we've got the 13 modules. It's all accredited modules. That's available, and we can, to train the trainer. So come on the course. Several guys that's on this course again today already did our biosecurity course. So now you can go out, take them. It's already developed. Everything is there. The PowerPoint slides are there. You just only need to go out and go and train the people there. And then I don't know. You mentioned about high copper levels. Kenneth, there's a question here from Ali on just spell the name of the area with high copper. Ali he's not from South Africa, so we need to spell it to him. But one day I'll take him there. Just
it's more or less about if I'm correct, about 200 kilometers north of Cape Town, where we have these high levels of copper in that specific area. I'm not sure if you remember that Calvinia area.
Oh, no, Namakwaland. Namakwaland, Calvinia, Springbok, those areas.
Those areas, yeah, where we see these days higher and higher levels of copper in ROMTures that we analyze.
I've got Ali. I've got a nice map of all the where you've got a deficiency and excess minerals in South Africa. When I see them, I can share it with you. Okay.
And I think if we talk about the copper in the Lucerne as well, I mean, due to the high molybdenum values, and we get higher and higher level these days. So we need to adapt that. But the biggest challenge, I think, for dairy farmers and for you as vets is sometimes, like the past few months, people use the same premix, but then they take the lucerne out and they forget about the copper that's still high in their premix. And then they just keep on adding copper to those diets, and there's no molybdenum or high molybdenum values from the lucerne. So people need to discuss these things with the veterinarian as well, as to say, listen, we are formulating lucerne out of the diet because it's too expensive, but we need to change the approach of copper as well.
Okay. I see that Dirk's, he can speak now. Dirk, we can't see you yet, but we'll see you tomorrow, but you can speak.
Okay, can I speak? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, clearly.
Hello, Kenneth.
Hello, Dirk, hoe gaan dit?
It's going well. It's good to see you again. It's just a pity it's online.
Ja, maar ek sien jy's Dirk Lourens Cornelis. So.
Yeah, Dirk Cornelis Lourens, that's my full name. And you will remember that we had good times together.
Yeah,
which fit in with your discussion. And just on a lighter note, during this latest discussion, you've done about half of my lecture for tomorrow. But thanks for that, because that will support. So I've got big questions, but just a comment. On this teamwork, you will remember, you and I, when we were younger, there was a tendency for a lot of competition and conflict between veterinarians and nutritionists. And luckily this has changed, to the benefit of both, because obviously working together, my experience that I've worked a lot of years with nutritionists on many occasions was that it was to the mutual benefit of both, and eventually to the benefit of the farmer. So I can't emphasize this team approach. Even now at retirement, I still remember that. I mean, that is so critical for success. So I want to emphasize that. And thanks for your excellent lecture. I especially enjoyed the part on the leaky gut syndrome and this last part on the minerals. I mean, that was really, that was really opening my thought process, with regard to minerals, because on many occasions we struggled with minerals. Thank you very much.
I think, Dirk, it's a new area, and it's actually a big focus. I'm doing a leaky gut focus with the Namibian Veterinarian Association on Thursday evening, on there for them. Today was no time to really go into the detail, but I think there's so much research going on leaky gut, and I think for me, it's a pity that they didn't do this 25 years ago, because I understand heat stress and the effects that we see in cows much better today due to these leaky gut syndrome related issues. It's just a pity that we don't have the tools and the evaluation measurables currently on farm level yet. To see how can we measure this to optimize things, because it's metabolic, so it's always difficult to have values on hand to see when things are happening. Because if we can do that, things like heat stress, people think heat stress is not in South Africa an issue because South Africans are used to this weather. But I experienced what heat stress were when I was the year that I was in the United States, when people put on fans and water systems to cool cows down, and outside it was snow or snowing. So then I realized that my reference for heat stress is different to the rest of the world.
Okay, Elena, I don't know if there's no more questions, then the next session starts in 20 minutes, I think.